It is Basketball in Focus. Shane's Rib Shack on a quiet Thursday night at Shane's. Should pick up, I'm thinking, soon at Shane's. Should get busier, but good to be back again on our broadcast, Greensboro Sports Radio, greensborosports.com. I'd like to talk about Wyatt Smith will join us from our website to begin this evening's discussions. And first of all, I know you've been busy this week tracking those teams, a lot of the Metro teams you've been following. Take us back to Tuesday night. What did you see on Tuesday?
Tuesday night, I went and saw Paige and Dudley play, and it was two really good games. We went. The Paige girls ended up winning losing 50-48. That was the night that Kalina Morris hit a shot at the buzzer. Tiara Johnson drove the lane and tried to lay the ball in. I think that they had about 8 seconds left, and she puts it, goes to lay the ball in and missed it. Kalina got the rebound, tried to put it back up, missed that one.
Yeah, I heard
it
was like about, I don't know where I read it, maybe your part, maybe someone else's part. Like, Tara Johnson had a shot at it, she missed it, and Kara Harrison, she missed it, and Morris is there, put it back in.
Right, yeah, so they end up getting it right back in, and she said that she had no idea how much time was left when she put the shot up, that she thought that they were going to have to get back down the court and maybe play a little bit of defense right there, and then as soon as the ball fell, the horn went off. So that was tough for Debbie Jones at Page. I think she was frustrated. They had
a shot at Dudley, just couldn't get it done. I mean, Dudley's got that top spot now. They could clinch it tomorrow night to beat Southeast Guilford. Southeast, I think, has got 2 losses. They're right there at them, right there with them. But Page had a chance, but Dudley has been pretty fortunate this year.
They have. The main thing with Dudley is that they've got the big girl inside with Kalina Morris, and Tiara Johnson does such a good job running the point. She plays her heart out. She's kind of like a Haley Barber of the Dudley team. The big thing that really hurt Page on Tuesday night were free throws in the women's game, and there were free throws that were missed in the men's game as well that ended up pretty much costing both teams the game.
Now, who's your favorite for the Metro women? Do you put Dudley, since they're in the driver's seat, they're going to be the favorite to win it?
I do. I think that even though the Southeast gave Page a hard time the last time that they played, I think that Dudley's going to go down and beat Southeast tomorrow night, and that they'll win that's my Metro prediction for the girls.
Southeast is a team that beat Dudley too when they played first time around. I think Southeast got Dudley. Now maybe Dudley, if they win at home, they get Southeast and Dudley takes it all. This is going to be pretty tight. I think Southeast right now is 19-4, got a very good overall record, and I think they've surprised some people. There hasn't been a lot of talk about Southeast Guilford girls. I mean, that's a good conference, men and women both, but not a lot of talk about what Southeast and what Southeast has been doing. They're right there in the mix pretty much every year. After Coach Sean Newton stepped down and Rachel Clark took over, former Southeast player. She's been on the team now for 2 years. She's done a great job on that team.
She has. That's great.
I know they got beat by Smith this year. A lot of people kind of raise their eyebrows about that.
Right.
Smith beating Southeast, but sometimes in that conference among the women, there are going to be a few weeks where you're going to lose a game or two. As long as you're there at the end, you got a chance to win at the end, you're okay.
Well, I've seen Smith play a couple of times this year, and they're nothing to turn your head at.
They're improving.
They are. They're
got
improving.
A freshman point guard, got a sophomore guard to go with it, got a big girl inside. Smith's not a bad team.
No, they're not. I think that they'll contend in the future, and they'll start look like they're going in the right direction over
also
there.
The big post girls have moved down from last year. Would have had 2 big post women this year, 2 big post girls, but you still got the young lady in the middle, McCulloch. They still got Symphony Jackson, DJ Jackson, still got Harmony Fletcher. All 3 of those girls. Fletcher was a great shooter.
Right.
And they got some possibilities. Coach Johnson, I think, you look at the record, you may not realize it or maybe believe it, but he looks at that record. He's pleased with the improvement so far.
Well, I think he should
be. They got beat by Southern Alabama tonight. It was not a happy night that night. Went down to Southern Alabama. You got to beat Southern Alabama. So that's the team you got a chance to win.
Right.
Got to win those winnable games and pick a few others along the way. But they're showing progress.
They are. They show. They look like they were playing more as a team when when
They
they
actually gave Dudley a decent game over at Smith a couple weeks ago, early part of the game, and kind of
Right.
hung with Dudley for a while. Couldn't hang with Dudley all night, but I mean, once Dudley got warmed up, Dudley took over the game. But I think Smith competes, and Grimsley's, I think they're improved too. It's hard to see it by the, you can't set a record at all for Grimsley improving, but they're coming along. That Rebecca Little, if I've got my kid on my new milk carton this year that I'm spreading around, trying to get the word out about these kids, she's not disappeared, she's here, but I'm trying to get the word out about Rebecca Little. She is a good future player for Grimsley. That kid can play, can shoot outside shots, very good point guard, stands about 6 feet tall. They got to pretty much run the point. Rebecca Little, to me, is a keeper.
Yeah, evidently she's done a really good job over there at Grimsley this year. I was just looking back at my notes, and Dudley led 20-12 after one in the girls' game, and then the Panthers went on a 9-0 run after Ava Casper hit a three to cut the lead to 23-21 and led 28-22 at the half.
It's a game of
Then they
runs,
went
man.
They went
Definitely
back
game
and
of runs.
forth,
Yeah.
back and forth in the fourth quarter with 3 ties and 5 lead changes. They're just back and forth all night
You look
long.
at that
And
Southwest Northwest Guilford men's game the other night when Southwest had a nice halftime lead. Northwest goes on a 31-9 run in the third quarter. That's a heck of a run right there.
yeah, it's rare that you see anybody scoring 39 or 31 points in a quarter.
Yeah, because last Friday night Grimsley scored 1 point in the first quarter, 7-1 Dudley after a quarter. How about that? That's a kind of a crazy night.
Wow, and the boys'
7-1,
game?
yeah, 7-1
Wow.
last Friday night. Grimsley got 1 free throw. Aaron Wiggins hit the free throw. That was the only Grimsley scored in the first quarter. Halftime score 19-10.
Wow.
And Grimsley was in the game at halftime. They were down 7-1 early. That's kind of way behind in the first quarter, 7-1. But halftime, you're 19-10. You're back in the game.
That sounds like it was a really good defensive game. Maybe somebody was off there.
Grimsley was a little bit worried about that game. Some reason I think they were heavily concerned about Dudley, and Dudley pressure got to Grimsley that night. Kind of worried about that pressure, but Grimsley can play. They got to play tomorrow. They got Smith at home tomorrow night. Big game for them then. Trying to get that. That might be a second place type game. That's the thing tomorrow night. Dudley beat Southeast. Dudley's got the conference in the men, and they beat Southeast in overtime the first time they played. I don't think it's going to be an overtime game tomorrow. I think Dudley's going to take care of business. They've been having some of those team meetings. That's Hendon Hooker calls those team meetings. Kind of runs his high school team like they do some of the pro teams and college teams. Have the players only meeting. Pretty good things. And I think Grimsley takes care of Southeast tomorrow night.
That's something that I've realized that happens.
Dudley takes care of Southeast tomorrow night. There you go.
Right. That's something that I've noticed about Dudley is when I go to Dudley, you go to get quotes after the game, and the coaches are back in their office after a couple of minutes. They say what they need to say, and the team has a meeting in there together, and I guess it's led by Hendon, like you said, and he ended up. In the games that I've watched him on Tuesday night, Hendon Hooker ended up hitting a free throw to win the game for Dudley against Page at that Page-Dudley game. We were talking about the girls
this year, so that shows he's got the force and he's got the touch to go with it. A key free throw.
That free throw was. He was on the line shooting 2. Both teams were in the double bonus, and he was on the line shooting 2, and they were down, or I guess it was tied at 60. And he hit the free throw. One of his 2 free throws to win the game. And when I talked to him after the game, I had spoken to a Page player because they had 2 opportunities within the last 40 seconds on the free throw line. It ended up shooting 4 free throws and missing all 4 of them. In a close game like that, I talked to a Page player and asked him, what's it feel like standing out there on the line knowing that your game's in your hands. If you make the free throw, you've got the chance. You make free throws, you got the chance to win. And he said that he was nervous. And the answer that I got from Hendon Hooker was comfortable. He said that's the position that I want to be in every night. I want to be in the position to give my team a victory every single night. And there's really something to be said for that, coming from a young man of it, his age.
He's a very mature kid. Very mature. I mean, he takes care of business, and he has a business-like approach.
He does. He's really impressed me with his professionalism and with the way he carries himself on the court and off the court and field, and as
People don't
vice
know him
versa.
that well. I don't know the inside of him. He likes basketball as much, if not more, than he likes football. That's how much he loves this game of basketball.
Right, he does. He seems to really enjoy it. But there was that game could have been won by Page. They had a lot of costly turnovers coming down the stretch, and that was a game that Page looked like they were in, even though the scores maybe in some of the quarters made it look like Page wasn't really in the game, but
Well, as far as
they were
record
fighting
goes,
back.
You feel pretty good about Dudley's men winning at 10.
I wouldn't pick anybody besides Dudley. That's my prediction for the Metro
What
men.
about the women? Sticking with Dudley there?
Sticking
too?
with Dudley on the women as well.
Will anybody beat Northwest Guilford this year? Did the Northwest Guilford women run the table? That's the question of the night there. Unbeaten now at 21-0. Do they run the table? Or 22-0 now?
I really do think that they will.
Run that table, win it all. A lot of
We
people are
talked
hoping
about it.
That's the only unbeaten team around here now.
We talked about it last time I was here, or right before basketball season started. Coach Joyner's got depth and determination on her team, and she runs a great program over there and has her players in check. And they don't seem to play outside, run around crazy outside of
Good
themselves.
examples last night. Last night they had balance. Top scorer had 9 points. They won the game last night, 41-39. Beat a very good East Davidson team. East Davidson got a couple of probably D1 players on there. The guard, Maddie Hallman, the center, Bailey Plummer, probably going D1. Those two girls not D1, at least D1, D2. And this Northwest just a balanced team effort last time, all the way around. And like I say, 7 or 8 people contributed. They got girls contributed 1 through 8.
They do, and they've got girls that are coming off the bench that are doing really well.
Yeah, girls come off the bench can start for most teams. Everybody says that all the time. They can start for Northwest. It's just
Right.
they choose to start those girls. Some of those girls like coming off the bench better, and they play better. It's like Hennigan. Hennigan likes coming off the bench as number 6 man. He'd rather be number 6 and be a starter, just the way he likes to come in the game.
Right, and it's always burst of energy when Thomas Hennigan comes into the game. There's no doubt about that.
He's an impact player. It doesn't matter what sport he plays.
He really is, and it's really going to be interesting to see what kind of offers he ends up getting and what he decides to go with, because there's no doubt in my mind that he could play basketball at a smaller school as well as football. If he decided to go that route, he might not be able to play at a Division I school at this time, but maybe next year by this time he would be getting a Division I offer to play both sports.
He's going to be training, working out, getting ready. So he's definitely going to be getting stronger as he heads that way. What about this? We talked about the Smith women. What about the Smith men? Can Smith win the Metro 40 Conference tournament? Will they win the tournament? What do you think about Smith? You saw him play that night when he beat Page when Raymond Pratt had 46 that night. You seen Smith? What about Smith? Can they win the tournament?
Right.
And do you think they win the tournament?
I think Smith has the opportunity to win the tournament. They've got Raymond Pratt and Tyrese Cheeks really does
He scored
what.
29 last game you had, right?
Right, yeah. The last game that I did, he scored 29 points.
I guess that was the Page Smith rematch last Friday night. That was another close game.
That was another close game. Page won 73-71, and Tyrese Cheeks had 29 points. I think that they definitely have a chance to win the
It's going to be like a
tournament.
neutral site in some ways to them, because they won't be going to Dudley this year. The tournament's in Southeast, so for Smith, you could end up with possibly Smith and Dudley playing in the finals at Southeast. That's how crazy that could be.
Right, that would be.
You
that
might have
would
Smith
be-
at 4, Dudley at 1. Could be there with Grimsley at 2 and Page at 3, and flip it around like that.
Right, if Smith gets on a roll and Raymond Pratt and Tyrese Cheeks get involved, they'll definitely have an opportunity to win the Metro tournament.
And you got Crutchfield going back to his old school. He used to play for Southeast a few years ago. He came in
Right.
Smith out of Southeast, so Crutchfield goes back there. And you got the big man Gainey in the middle. Gainey can. It's a
Right.
factor. Not too many teams that actually even have centers anymore. People don't even play
That's
centers.
right.
The centers are dead like a dinosaur.
It
They don't
is.
play centers anymore. I mean, Northwest is not. Well, they got Thunderbird, but he doesn't play as much as Reggie Davis and Hennigan play.
Right.
Thunderbird's not in there all that much. He's probably half the time. And with Dudley, they've got no true center.
Right.
The Mattis Gilmore used to play kind of like a center lad, didn't play that much this year. You look at Grimsley. Grimsley's got no center. Page has no center. Page has had a center in the past couple of years.
Right. Well, DeAndre Overton, 6'6", he's playing point guard.
Played it last year, yeah.
And
they didn't use they used Xavier Hill Mays some last year. He was more like a power forward. Hill Mays last year for Page.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. Most of the big guys have really turned into power forwards. You know, the other kid at
the key
Page.
spot on the floor now is probably the 3 spot. 2 or 3 of the key spots before you get that shooting guard spot, that small forward spot. Those are the coveted positions now. And they want all these guys 6'6", got to be able to play the 2, play the 3. Those are your 2 spots.
That's right.
If you're a power forward, like you just said, you're a center.
That's the way that the game is kind of turning. It looks like even with Matt Audelay at Page, who's also 6'6", he's not playing much.
But they're in a key stretch of the game. He won't be in there a whole lot either. He's a great kid, but he won't be playing when it comes crunch time. You have the smaller, quicker guys out there.
Right.
Because Matt's still learning the game to some degree. He's a good player, young man coming up, but he's still learning some of the nuances of the game, you might want to say.
He's struggled in some games. In other games, he's performed really well.
He'll come out and block a shot or 2 here or there, make a big play, then maybe he'll come up with a play just he should make that he doesn't make, and that's all still part of the big curve, the big learning curve, which he's still in the corner in that learning curve these days.
Right, he had a couple of really overpowering dunks last night against Eastern Guilford.
Yep,
it was good to see that.
That happened. Yeah, yep. Eastern Guilford's boys did not put up the type of opposition that they should have. I'm not going to say they didn't put up obviously not expected. They should have put up a lot more resistance against Pace. Eastern Guilford's boys are a better team than that. Last night, from what my source told me, they only played the starters half the game for some reason. They didn't play much. There's been a little bit of adjustment at Eastern Guilford lately. Somehow, some way, the players and the coaches have got to get together again as they hit the playoffs, hit the tournaments, because right now the coaches aren't pleased the way these players are playing at the end of the year, and the starters only played half the game last night.
Right. I didn't cover the game for the website. I was doing the PA announcing, so I wasn't really keeping track of who's who scored or anything, who had the highest scoring or who was in the game the most. But they did make a lot of substitutions, and it would be 5 guys at one time.
Right.
And they did that. They changed the entire team about 4 different times in that game last night.
We talked about Smith. The boys have a chance to win the tournament, you feel like. They've got an outside shot. What about the Piedmont Triad 4A? Who gets that number 1 seed coming out of the conference tournament or going into the conference tournament? Who gets that number 1 seed? Who wins that tournament next week at Eastern Site? Is it going to be Northwest or Southwest? Who wins that tournament? Who's number 1? They're split right now.
Well, they're split right now, but the Southwest Guilford isn't going to lose again to Northwest Guilford again. I really don't think that they are.
There's the call right there.
I think that they wanted to have an unbeaten season, and that there was so much hype. They've been so excited that they had their unbeaten season, and it was like a dagger in their heart when they got beat on Tuesday night, and they are going to come back with vengeance.
The craziest thing is, well, it's not crazy because basketball seems to be going that direction these days, but Northwest wins at Southwest, Southwest wins at Northwest, and you would think the student sections would be factors in those games, which they never got a chance to be at the end because the visiting teams were winning.
Right. That's been the case in a couple of games that I've been to and as well. And
that Page student section is a sharp student section. If they get a chance to get into it, they can put up. I saw them in that game when they played Grimsley that night. Had a chance to do some things, but Grimsley wins at the end. They win that ball game, and over at Grimsley, the Grimsley student section, big factor in the game that night there.
Yeah, if you've got support from your students, it really helps the kids out on the court. I think you have good support from your students. It really helps the kids on the court when they've got over there.
Some schools, the student section is always involved. Some schools, it's the band. At Dudley, it's usually the band. Sometimes at Smith, it's the band too.
Right, that's true. They were running the drum line last night, or the night before Tuesday night at Page, and then last night it was the student section that was kind of small. There wasn't that many people out because it was kind of an odd night for a basketball game or the makeup game.
I think it was a makeup game for the early part of the year.
Right, it was, and they ended up showing up. There was probably maybe 20, 25 students at the most over there, and but
I think on the good nights they're going to have about 300, 400 possibly, maybe 250 at least.
you would think so with the high enrollment and the big games that they play. They would definitely have a big student section.
What do you think about this mid-state 3A? You haven't seen those guys much, but taking a wild stab at it. Who do you see doing the best, going the furthest? Who lasts the longest? You saw Eastern Guilford, so you know a little bit about them from last night.
Right.
What about Eastern Guilford or Northern Guilford? I don't think Northeast Guilford's men are going to go very far. May finish up next week their season in the conference tournament. What about Northern Guilford or Eastern Guilford's men? Who do you think goes the longest, lasts longest, headed toward the postseason between those two teams?
Well, from what I've seen and read, I would say that Northern Guilford would go the furthest.
I think Eastern beat them last time at 73-70, so head-to-head, good competition, but the way they're playing right now,
right.
I think you may be right.
But I believe the Eastern Alamance is probably the boys and girls are probably going to win the conferences and the tournament for in the 3A, Piedmont Triad 3A, Mid-State 3A.
So you feel pretty good about the 3A and the 4A, and who's been the most impressive team you have seen this year?
That's a really good question. I think that offensively and as a whole offensively that Dudley's probably the best team that I've seen. They've had a couple of games where they've really come together offensively and played well. Dudley would be up there, but it's hard to. I would say I'm just going to stick with Dudley because they do well. They went through a little.
How about a head-to-head?
There.
Let's give you a head-to-head matchup then.
Okay.
Dudley versus Southwest.
Oh, Southwest.
Okay.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. The Southwest Guilford would roll all over Dudley. So
they played once, and that was the case. About 20-point win. I think Dudley give them a better game now, which that usually does work out that way as the season goes on. Teams like Dudley tend to get better, and Southwest is getting better, but they were really strong all the way through. Better matchup now. Those two played again. But your team that you've seen, most impressive, Dudley. What about the most impressive boys player you've seen this year? I know Raymond Pratt had that 46-point game, but you've seen more games than just that one game. Who's the most impressive boys player?
The most impressive boys player that I've seen is actually a football player as well. He's an unbelievable athlete. It's got to be DeAndre Overton. He's so athletic on the court. 6'6", running a point guard for a high school team. Usually don't see that. And he's putting up 15 points a night.
Well, how about your top 5 boys? So Hooker's one of your top 5 boys. Who are the other 4? I'm not going to give you any ideas. Let you roll them up here.
Hooker, Overton.
So you got Hooker and Overton. That's 2.
John Newman at Greensboro Day.
Okay. Let's go all public first.
Oh, okay.
5%.
All right. So Overton,
Hooker,
Jalen King at Page.
Okay.
He makes big time clutch shots.
What about
Let's
Pratt,
see.
Pratt or Smith?
Raymond Pratt, obviously, he's got to be one of them because he's such a scoring threat. And then if I think back, probably. Thomas Hennigan,
Okay,
maybe
good.
the last one.
Okay.
Because he's
What about Hennigan? He made a hay call. What about Hennigan versus Turner, though? Do you choose Hennigan or Turner? Had both those guys in your last week. Who gets a nod between those two for the all top 5 team?
I would have to say Hennigan because he makes such an impact coming off the bench. So as the 6th man, like we talked about, when he comes off the bench, he brings his energy with him. He plays, run through the wall, and that's something about him that he's got heart and determination, and he loves being in that role that he's in.
Well, what about you look at those guys, those 5? What about your top 5 private school guys? You're probably going to have it'll be almost like the Haycall tournament team. Probably have 2 guys from one team, 3 from the other. Probably going to go
right.
maybe one guy from Wesleyan. If you've seen Wesleyan, they probably get one guy in there. But probably Quay Parker, maybe from them. But what about your guys on your private school boys top 5 group?
I haven't seen Wesleyan yet. I would have liked to have seen the Wesleyan game the other night.
Yeah.
Evidently, that was
a lot of heat in that game.
There was a lot of heat in that game.
Good competition in the Packers, no doubt about it.
Probably in this order, it would be.
You mentioned John Newman as one already.
Right, in this order, the first one, the best
Bam.
private school player in my opinion this season is John Newman.
John Newman gets you top score, okay.
Number 1. Then Trayvon Mayo would be number 2.
Okay.
J.P. Mormon number 3.
What about Bam from High Point Christian Academy?
You can put Bam at 4.
Okay.
And Jalen Seegers at 5.
Okay, there's your top 5.
Yeah.
Day. Mormon's got to be in there because Mormon's is really rising up the ladder as far as players go nationwide, as far as accreditation goes these days.
He is, and he had an off night that night that they lost to High Point Christian. I had my notes here from that game when Jalen Seegers won with points, hit the winning basket with .7 to go in the game. And there was so much. Jalen Seegers ended up having 14 points that night. Bam had 16. It was a really. The defense was really big for High Point Christian coming out in that game. They played really physical and really hard to begin the game, and then it never slowed down, really. The physicality, they set the pace early, that was the way that the game was going to go, and it continued that way. Very intense. Student sections involved heavily in that game. And both of the High Point Christian Greensboro Day games, the student sections were heavily involved, and back and forth at each other, boosting the teams, and that's why I say that the student section can have a big effect on teams when they're playing, because if you've got that support, gets you hyped. There's guys out there from Greensboro Day on that during that High Point Christian game throwing their arms up in the air trying to get the student section fired up.
Speaking about other items too on the same list of things, how about the top 5 girls?
The top 5 girls, I would Haley Barber would have to be number 1. Tiara Johnson probably be number 2. Morgan Pointer in there somewhere.
That's Cargo.
Bailey Cargo is definitely in there. And I'll take one more from Paige and say Emily Casper.
It's a hard-working little kid.
Well, I didn't say Kalina Morris, so
yep.
I'll give it to Kalina because she's got the ability to make get the points down low, hold the block down, and get big rebounds. So with her size, she overpowers people tremendously.
But definitely your pick is going to be Haley Barber up top.
Definitely.
Number 1 spot. You haven't seen yet this year. I guess you haven't seen LaShonda Monk. I haven't seen Monk play.
I haven't.
Southwest, another good ball player there.
I haven't seen
you haven't
her.
seen much of Alyssa Canane.
No, I saw her at the Hayco, and she didn't play very well in the game that I saw at the Hayco, but I've heard a lot about her, and evidently she's a really good athlete, and probably could go on anywhere in that list.
On your list, you like Johnson over Harrison from Dudley.
I do.
Okay.
I think that I would rather have Johnson over Harrison, just because Johnson seems to be the leader of that team and runs the point really well, plays really hard, gets the team motivated, keeps things rolling on the floor, play a fast-paced game. She seems to have a really good relationship with Coach McNeil over there. He seems like he's got that group of girls together, and she seems to be the core of it from the outside looking in.
Well, looking at this now, what about the Coach of the Year for the boys? You could say we're going on this list tonight, what about the Coach of the Year for the boys around the Guilford County public school circles?
The Coach of the Year, I would have to say would be Coach Shavers at Northwest.
Southwest, right. Coach Shavers.
Right.
Very good choice because they've got the best record right now. No doubt about that, obviously. I was thinking even Coach Shavers. Also, we had mentioned Coach Griffiths at Grimsley had a pretty good year bringing that
Well,
team
they actually Grimsley has had a good year over there.
Yeah, had a weak year last year. I still see not a bad choice, Coach Shavers. And even, I tell you, another good choice, too, is Coach Revis. He's done a good job at that Northwest Guilford
Coach
team.
Revis at Northwest.
The teams he's lost to, like Greensboro, Durham, Southwest Guilford, I mean, those are no slouches.
Right, they're not.
Slouches at all.
They're not. There's no doubt that those teams are not slouches, and that those two teams probably beat just about every other school in Guilford County.
Those guys can run. They can really move. And the fact of the matter is Southwest can run faster because they're younger and just a little bit quicker in some ways.
Is that how they won the game?
A lot of running, yeah. And they got ball control. They controlled the ball, the passes. They took away the passes inside the Southwest. The 2 or 3 foot bucket was taken away from Southwest by Northwest. They got the extra hand in, got the steal, and they frustrated Southwest. When Southwest got frustrated, they pretty much began to self-destruct. Unfortunately.
Wow.
Turn that game around. What about the coach of the year for the girls?
I would say Coach Jones at Page would be a pick. Their team has done well. If not her, then obviously Coach Joyner, just because of her record and what a great job she does.
And some other names I've got on you might think about too might be Coach McNeil's done a very good job today. The team started slow, but that Dudley team's coming along. Coach Whitaker at Southern Guilford, you probably don't do much without them. They're kind of outside that county toward the edge.
Right, I haven't seen them play.
And another coach too would be Coach Clark at Southeast because they've got that 19-4 record. But you mentioned Coach Jones,
right, but
Coach Jordan.
They beat Page, and they did. You said they also beat Dudley.
Beat Dudley, yeah, exactly. Sure did. They beat some big teams, plus they got a chance tomorrow night too. If she wants to be Coach of the Year, they can get that honor for tomorrow night.
That's right. If they beat Dudley, then she probably will be in very good contention for that Coach of the Year for this area.
What about the Carolina Panthers changing gears a little bit, kind of switching, getting outside the box? What Panthers, are they back in the Super Bowl next year?
I'll go out on a limb and say that they will be. They're not going to have the same kind of season that they had this past year. I don't think. I was really surprised that Denver's defense just completely overpowered Carolina's offensive line. I know that Carolina's defense has been the best in the NFL.
Mike had a tough time at that left tackle spot. He got beat all day long by Miller and everybody else at the same time. And the false starts, you didn't see those penalties and turnovers by the Panthers during the year, but the false starts, I know they're supposed to be playing a neutral site, but what just ate them up that day.
Right.
And part of those false starts is the fact they were worried about that guy getting around them, you know?
That's true. And the big thing with them is they ride or die with Cam Newton, and if they took away, I think, in my opinion, the Broncos took away Cam's ability to stand in the pocket and look for a receiver, and he didn't have any time in the pocket to find a receiver, and they pretty much completely took away the running game as well. Took away, with Cam and Jonathan Stewart, those guys.
You think Cam should have jumped in the pile to get that loose football?
Oh my goodness! It's a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's easy to Monday morning quarterback something like that. You don't know what's going through his head.
You got to be a Sunday night quarterback then.
Right.
Sunday night says do it then and do it now.
Right. I was dumbfounded, along with probably everybody else who saw it. I just didn't understand it. You really don't know what's going through his head there. I will say that I think that it was very unprofessional of the National Football League to have the press conferences within earshot
guys in the same room with each other. You think all the money those guys got, all the millions they have, they settle lawsuits for like $5 million a day. You should have enough money to separate the two teams.
Exactly. They should be separated, and there's no way that they should have been within earshot of each other. They should be in completely different rooms. You have one team come out, and then you have the other team come out. That's the way that it's usually done. And everybody's, Cam's such a poor sport. He wouldn't sit through the press conference. He just got up and walked out. No, Cam Newton was getting trashed and had just lost the Super Bowl and was upset. And maybe he shouldn't have gotten up and walked away from the press conference. But I blame the NFL for that. I really do.
Well, how about this? Let's ask this question. Cam Newton, after the Super Bowl loss, is he still the MVP? After what you saw Sunday, does he keep the award, or should it go to Von Miller for the year? Do you take that award back? Is he still the MVP?
He's still the MVP. He's still, the team went 15-1 in the regular season, and he's still. I would say that he's still the team MVP. He's still the MVP. There's no way that you could, that in my opinion, that you take that away from them, because of the fact that he got the team there. The performances that he had throughout the season he had several performances that were spectacular.
Do you think he needs a PR firm to kind of back him up on some of these appearances and some of the different things he does with his upcoming career? That may help a little bit. Just get kind of PR help?
I think that he probably could use an assistant or somebody to help him with the his hype and stuff off the field. On the field, in my opinion, if you're backing it up with your game, get excited, do what you do. The way in this day and time, people act like guys make a 20-yard reception, they get up, slam the football on the ground, and act like they've just won the Super Bowl, make a sack. They end up sacking the quarterback. They get up, act like they won the Super Bowl.
It leads to other guys wanting to do it too, because this guy does. Well, I want to do the same thing. That guy just went crazy. I'm gonna go crazy when I get a big first down, and everybody gets in that same mode. It kind of takes away from some of the game.
Right, it does, and that's one of the things that I don't like about the professional, the NBA and the NFL, professional athletes. They act just celebrating like they've just done something incredible, when really it's not going to matter at the end of the year, and it might not even matter at the end of the game. Nobody even say anything about it.
That point out that we just came in second. You don't want to throw that out there either.
Right.
Don't talk about that if you lost.
Right. Exactly. That's one thing that I really don't like about professional sports, and maybe it's because the reason that it's like that is because the guys are getting paid so much money and they get into it, but I really don't think that you can take that MVP away from Cam Newton.
Well, we got to take you away. We're getting some Southwest Gopher guys here, so let's get you rolling through. Wyatt, as always, thanks for the good work today here at Chan's Rib Shack. And
thank you, sir.
First segment got some Southwest Gopher men coming to the house, and we'll get these guys on up. We'll begin to get these guys in on the next interview stop and get with Coach Shaver, see who he wants to get in here first. Let's take a little break in the action, get our second